Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I used to be amazing at tennis as a child. Let me tell you guys, I was killing it on the court. Yes, I'm talking about Mario Tennis for the Nintendo 64, and yes, I've never actually tried playing tennis. Well, I did once, and I think I hit myself in the face with a racket. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and I'm so excited for this one, you guys. We get the chance to talk about King Richard, which hits theaters and HBO Max this weekend. A huge thank you to Warner Brothers for giving me the chance to see this in theaters for review. Now, y'all, let me tell you, ever since I even heard about the casting for this movie, I was excited, let alone the source material. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of tennis in the world, but I was really excited to learn a little bit more about Venus, Serena, and their father Richard. Before we dive into why I think this movie is incredible, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies like this all the time, so you're not going to want to miss out. Go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell, you guys, and go ahead and get loud in the comments. I need to know something, y'all. Did you see this movie? Did you love it? And do you think it'll be nominated and maybe win Best Picture at this year's Oscars? Let's have that conversation down below, and also hit that thumbs up button if you're a big fan of Will Smith and this entire cast, because there's a lot to love. So if you don't know much about the film, y'all, let's go ahead and break down who's directing, who's starring, and what it's all about. It's directed by Reinaldo Marcus Green and starring Will Smith, Aunjanue Ellis, and Jon Bernthal. And the story really is more so about Venus and Serena as children receiving coaching from their father Richard, and this is the story almost through Richard's eyes, which is really cool, especially in certain moments where we get to learn a little bit more about his past, his family, and things off the court. And honestly, it's the storytelling here that does make this movie so darn enjoyable. So let's begin with what works in King Richard. And guys, it really is just the tone of this movie. And that surprised me the most, because most biopics these days, even sports biopics, they tend to get very downtrodden, depressing, not very optimistic, to be honest with you. So usually I'll leave the theater feeling a little heavy emotionally, but I left King Richard incredibly inspired. This movie does carry that optimistic, motivational message in the midst of adversity, whether it be Richard struggling with his inward sense of potential failure, or even Venus and Serena Williams learning how to remain humble and grow from defeat. There are so many different life lessons that are planted within the screenplay, but it's up to the actors to really bring that message and convey it to the audience, and they do an exceptional job at that. And leave it up to Will Smith, who usually provides those moments where I'd run through a wall for him. Guys, there are these moments where he's practicing and helping Venus and Serena become better athletes, and I wanted to get out there with the tennis racket that I don't own and just try to be the best I could be. The man is just dropping dimes throughout the entire film, and the movie's better for it. So you know what, let's not move far away from the acting itself, because guys, like I mentioned earlier, this entire cast is incredible, but there should be at least 1 or 2 Oscar nominees among the cast as well. So let's start with Will Smith as Richard Williams himself. See, I didn't know too much about Venus and Serena's childhood, their upbringing, so it was neat to kind of get that glimpse into their, I guess, formative years in Compton. And I do think that Will Smith was the absolute best choice for this role. I think he nails the voice, he nails the mannerisms. I've seen some older videos now of Richard Williams, and Will Smith knocks it out of the park. To be honest, this is his most emotionally layered performance since The Pursuit of Happiness. It might even be his best since The Pursuit of Happiness, to be honest with you. And then there's Aunjanue Ellis as Brandy Williams, the wife of Richard Williams. Guys, let me be honest with y'all. She delivers a performance which I thought actually stole the show in certain moments. There are at least 2 scenes I can think of right now, one especially in the kitchen with just Will Smith and her, where she commands the screen. My attention was fully on her and her performance, and she probably will and deserves to get nominated as Best Supporting Actress at next year's Oscars. But even outside of our 2 leads, for me, it was important that the film got the casting correct for Venus and Serena Williams, and I'm happy to say, guys, they nailed it. It was just awesome to see Saniyya Sidney as Venus Williams and Demi Singleton as Serena, both of them really embodying the actual essence of these characters better than I could have even imagined they would. And it's funny because when the film kind of progresses and you see them, I guess, in their older years, both of these actors just do an incredible job at just almost looking like split images of both Serena and Venus. And it's mainly due to how they sort of have this cadence about them where they're just resonating exactly what it is that makes both of these athletes exceptional human beings. So they capture on the athletic side of things very well, but they also captured the personalities very well. I mean, it's just incredible to see. I'm actually finding it hard to find the proper words because words really don't do justice to their performances in this movie. And I do want to shout out the supporting cast too, because Jon Bernthal as Rick Matchie, who was Venus and Serena's tennis coach in Florida, did an exceptional job. Listen here, y'all. Jon Bernthal is a very versatile actor. His range is incredible. He can be funny, he can be serious, he can be incredibly personable. And I just think in this role, yes, it gets a little campy every now and then because, you know, he's got the mustache. It's clearly going to make some audiences laugh. He's the comedic relief in some instances. But to me, he kind of felt like that turning point in the film where you can tell they're starting to gear up for Venus's big debut, and Serena was of course a little bit younger, so she was kind of in the shadows of her sister. But man, I loved exactly what Jon Bernthal did with this performance. And then there's Tony Goldwyn as Paul Cohen, Venus's tennis coach before the family moved to Florida for Rick Matchie. It's just very interesting to see because there's a clear contrast between both of these moments where you can tell Richard was trying to get both of his girls trained by this coach, but he couldn't afford it. So what did he do? He just convinced Tony Goldwyn's character to go ahead and coach Venus for free, but Serena couldn't be coached yet. It's just a cool progression of things though, because there's this amazing contrast between both halves of the movie, but both of them work very well for me. And honestly, if you are coming into this expecting gut-wrenching moments, trust me guys, there were plenty of that almost brought me to tears. But what I loved about the direction in this movie is that it never hits you over the head with it right away. Instead, it builds up to that. It kind of leaves breadcrumbs and allows you to get to know these characters before it gets into the heavy-hitting drama of that second half. Some of my favorite scenes honestly are these tear-jerking moments with Richard and Venus on the tennis court during practice. It's raining and my goodness, I was so close to crying. And then of course there's Richard and Brandy in the kitchen where they sort of have a very heated exchange. But to me, this movie just does a great job at blending all of these elements together because it never is too dour, but it's also never too optimistic to the point where it's unrealistic. Instead, it's very grounded in its material that it plays with here in this movie. And then when it comes to the cinematography, guys, there's this amazing style that these scenes are shot with on the court. I don't know how they pulled it off, but there are these awesome tracking shots to where, you know, traditionally when you're watching tennis on TV, it's that overhead angle, but they got on the court, eye level. They even got down below on the actual court, it almost seems, where they're tracking, and then there's light leak, and it just looks beautiful. So the way they actually framed these moments to me were incredibly impressive, because when you come to a sports biopic, sometimes the way they can film those actual practices or matches can make or break a movie, but in this case it only helped King Richard. And I know I can't speak to Venus and Serena's life because I don't know too much about their childhood and their youth, but according to a good friend of mine who is invested in their lives, this movie got it right. Now, the film only really gets up to Venus's first professional game, and it does center more so around Venus Williams than Serena Williams, especially in the second half of the movie, but I don't think that was necessarily a bad thing because they do reintroduce Serena Williams' subplot in that last act to where it kind of adds a nice little cherry on top of the message it's trying to convey. But one of my favorite parts of the movie really was just exploring the life of Richard before Venus and Serena, because we get that little look in thanks to Brandy, who drops little bits and little hints of his past and reminds him where he came from. All this information was new to me, but it was never overwhelming. Actually, I think it was executed near perfectly. Oh, and before we move on to the one thing that didn't work for me in this movie, y'all, Beyonce's original song should definitely get an Oscar nomination, and it should possibly win. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, Be Alive is incredible. I've streamed it so many times on Apple Music, and I'm probably gonna play it in the car on the way to lunch. Yeah. Alrighty, y'all, so let's get into the one thing that didn't work as well for me compared to exactly what we just talked about. And it is the writing in the beginning of the film, because there's these, I would say they're gangs, honestly. They're gangs around Compton at this time, and they were sort of harassing, not sort of, they actually were harassing Richard, and then eventually they come to kind of be protective over him and his family in a sense. But it's the writing for the conflicts in the beginning of the movie that didn't really work for me. It never felt very fleshed out, and the editing at that time was a little clunky to where it almost seemed like they put that into the plot at the last minute, and it never really flowed as naturally as the other story beats in this film. And sometimes that happens in biopics where things feel a little by the numbers, and I think this was one of the areas where the formula might have got the best of it, but not in a great way. But honestly, y'all, that is the only thing I have to say that I didn't really enjoy about King Richard, because other than that, it's not only one of my favorite sports biopics in recent years, but it's one of my favorite movies of this year. It has exceptional performances, and like I mentioned, there are going to be some Academy Award winners coming away from this movie. Will Smith deserves Best Actor. Aunjanue Ellis deserves to get nominated for sure, and Be Alive, I mean, hey, it is the best original song I've heard this year. And it's honestly impressive how they were able to balance so many different phases of the Williams family in their lives without it feeling overwhelming. And that's the thing. I definitely came away expecting to feel at least a little unclear about things, but I turned to my friend and I didn't really have too many questions because this movie did a great job at answering pretty much every question I had getting into the movie. So if you have the chance to see this in theaters or on HBO Max, I definitely recommend this movie. King Richard, again, is going to be one of those films that just leaves a lasting impression on me as the year goes on. And to be honest, y'all, it's incredibly rewatchable. Like, I really want to watch this movie again. I can't wait for this weekend. I'm going to stream it. I'm going to watch it in theaters. I'm going to do something to rewatch King Richard because it is just one of those movies that, again, just leaves you with the best taste in your mouth when you either exit the theater or you get up from your couch. So there you have it, you guys. That is my real review for King Richard, which again is in theaters and HBO Max this weekend. Check it out, y'all. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below. Subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and go ahead and tap on that bell. Don't want you to miss out on any reviews, reactions, and news pieces because we just got done with an incredibly busy week. Ghostbusters Afterlife, Spider-Man No Way Home, Encanto. Oh my gosh, should I keep going? But when you do see King Richard, go ahead and get loud down below in the comments and let me know if you loved it as much as me and which performance by Will Smith is your favorite. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. I'm not going to try to play tennis. Not again, alright? That racket to the face, it hurt.